Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mondays with Mark Allen. Today, this is an interview you will not want to miss. I am with Lesley Paterson, who is up for an Oscar for a Best Adapted Screenplay for the movie All Quiet on the Western Front. If you haven't seen it yet, you have to see it. This is one of the most intense, amazing, emotionally packed, emotionally draining, emotionally stimulating movie you will ever see. Lesley, thanks for taking time. Just give me a sample of your schedule right now as you're going into the Oscars, because we were able to find 7.5 minutes where you were free between now and March 12th.
I swear it is bananas. Ever since, to be honest, the BAFTA nominations that came out on the 14th, it's been non-stop interviews. And then the Oscars, a whole other level. So yeah, pretty much it's kind of back-to-back interviews, TV, screenings, question and answer. Because, when you've got a big entity like Netflix behind you, obviously they funded and distributed the film. They have spent a lot of money on their awards campaign, and now that we've been nominated for 9 Oscars, it's like, oh, we've gone into mega drive. And then, of course, the British press specifically, when they find out about my story of being an athlete and it taking 16 years to get this project off the ground and funding the project by racing and all this kind of stuff, they've jumped on board. So now that's gone bananas too. So I'm currently in London. We're doing a press tour. And then I'm back to Los Angeles for a day. Then it's Santa Barbara, San Francisco, Berlin, then the BAFTAs, then back to LA in the build up to the Oscars.
Wow, just crazy. And there's you're in pretty rarefied air, because I think if my historical research is right, there have been 2 other world champion athletes who have also actually won Oscars. One was Esther Williams quite a long time ago, who was won for Best Actress, also a gold medalist. And then Kobe Bryant for, ironically and interestingly, very similar to you, he was a 5-time NBA champion. You are a 5-time triathlon champion, off-road racing, XTERRA ITU world champion. And he won for a short where a poem about his retirement was made into this animated short. But I think there's a little difference between a 5.5-minute movie and a full-length feature like you put together.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is an epic film, and we couldn't be prouder of it. And I mean, what an honor! What an honor to be linked with such an amazing filmmaker. We can't quite believe it. It hasn't sunk in yet, that's for sure.
What was it like when you first got the news that you were nominated? Were you like pinching yourself, or?
So yeah, so check this out. It was announced at 5:30 a.m. in Los Angeles time.
Yeah.
So I woke up at 2 a.m. that morning, of course, could not sleep. I was so nervous. So what did I do? I got on my bike trainer and I did a workout, because that's how us triathletes deal with stress, right? So here I am on this bike trainer, and I'm like, no, I could throw up like I'm on a world championship starting line, but you can't do anything about it. And so my writing partner Ian at the time, he was on the computer watching. I couldn't watch it, and so he ran downstairs, and I'm outside on the trainer, and he almost bowled me over. So it was pretty funny.
So tell us, how do they announce it to you? What are you looking at when?
Yes, you look online, so it's famous actors that. Gosh, who was the actors? Rizzy and a couple of big name actors. And it was a live broadcast, and they go through each category. So it's really nerve-wracking. Luckily screenplay was up relatively early, but of course I'm an executive producer on the project. So we were, really hoping for a lot of categories, which we got in the end. But you're sitting there on tenterhooks the whole time. But luckily they do it alphabetically. So it comes up on screen, All Quiet in the Western Front, and then whichever category, sound, makeup, this, that, so yeah. Good times, let me tell you.
That must have been something that when each one of the nominations came up, like, here's another one, here's another one,
Oh my
here's another one.
God. And
That's
I'm not
incredible.
joking, like my phone was blowing up because, we're on an email chain with all the head of Netflix, like Ted Sarandos and all this, massive names. They're all email going, and you're thinking, oh, this is wild.
Well, take us back when you were younger. You mentioned in some interviews that this book just mesmerized you when you read it as a younger person. what is it about the book, that story, that just compelled you, that said, I have to turn this into a movie? What's the message? What was the impetus for that?
Yeah, for me, really, it's the betrayal of a youthful generation
Mm,
and the fact that the upper brass made these decisions and, millions and millions of men lost their lives. And so I think it's that real for the people type sentiment. So I'm really drawn to that. I'm drawn to the story of the other side because I think too often, especially nowadays, we think in silos. It's very polarized. It's them, it's us, and we never put ourselves in other people's shoes. And here's a story of this young German boy, just like our boys, be it
mm,
British, be it American, be it French on the ally side, and they're experiencing all the same things, but they're on the losing side. And what does that look like? What does that mean? And that's why we infuse the story with another thread about the armistice being signed and the reparations that Germany had to pay back, and as a consequence, how World War One led to World War Two. Because I think a lot of us don't really understand the history of that and what that means, and how can we learn from that.
mm. Yeah, and there's a scene, if for those of you who haven't seen it, later in the movie, where the hero, if you want to call it that, one of the main characters, is in this kind of cesspool of a spot, and there's one of the opposition soldiers, and he has to stab him with a knife, but then he sees that this is just another person that's just like him, and he tries to somehow save his life, but he can't. It was such a
Right.
polarized coming together of these opposite forces, opposite sides. Just incredible.
It's such a beautiful scene in the film, and that's one of the most famous scenes in the book. And what is beautiful is just the agonizing horror and realization of our main character when he's killed the man, that he has to watch him then die.
Mm.
And what does that mean? And so you see this arc, this emotional arc in this one scene that is so potent and so intense, and the way that our director has shot it, it just, you feel so uncomfortable, don't you? And you're just like, get this thing over, just let me get out of the scene. And he just hangs in it, and you're like, this is just, and you go through that emotion with him.
Yeah, I have a good friend who is a movie buff. He'll watch anything, and he got to that scene and he couldn't watch it anymore. And I go, that was the scene that you had to make it through, to get through to this whole story that was unfolding for hours there. I have a question that's really in the back of my mind when I was watching the movie. As a writer, the film All Quiet on the Western Front, the writing, the speech of it is not the main character. The character is the imagery and the emotion that's going on, and the writing, the actors when they're talking. Those are kind of the threads that just hold these amazing images together. Kind of the opposite of, like, the writing is the main theme and the dialogue is the main theme, and everything else going on is kind of supporting the dialogue. How
Right.
is it for you as a writer you must have this amazing, incredible, visionary thing going on in your head of these pictures, and how do I pare down the wording so it's just a bare minimum to really highlight everything going on, this whole
Right.
story?
I think the biggest thing about screenwriting is it's like a kind of mathematical problem. There's such a thing as story architecture. So it's the juxtaposition of scenes, the pacing of scenes, how things escalate, quiet scenes versus loud scenes. There's all of this, meshing of different skills that come together that until you really study it and you dig down in it, you're like, you would have no idea how bloody difficult it is. And then you have to get into the nitty gritty details of, okay, which character is going where, when, and, how does the action break down? And, all of those, how do the characters sort of speak differently? They don't all sound the same. So there's lots of different things to juggle. And for sure, I think in All Quiet, it is that imagery. So as a consequence, it really is about how scenes fit together and what the trajectory is across the film. And those are the bigger macro things that you're looking at. So traditionally, of course, we think of writing as dialogue, but it really isn't. It's about the architecture. And it's almost like putting together a training program, right? You know, it's not the nitty-gritty of the 5x5s, the FTP or whatnot. It's that big picture of, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? And how do I lay the foundation for that and put all of the tiny little pieces together that create this whole? Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit, let's go way back. Tell us a little bit about your sporting career, because 5 world championships, that is pretty amazing. And it wasn't on like a nice little clean course. These are off-road, these are XTERRA, these are ITU off-road world championships. And for those of you who are watching this, Lesley and I kind of look like we're the same size. She's like a small package that's super potent and powerful. I think about 5 feet tall or something. But tell us about your sporting career.
I can maybe you can see me relative to the bed.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, but listen, I eat a lot. I could probably eat as much as you, that's for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I started as a rugby player when I was mega young, but I was also a ballet dancer. So I've always straddled arts and sport. And then when I could no longer play rugby with the boys, my dad got me into triathlon, and you know, you're talking kind of the early 90s. And of course, triathlon shifted at that point, as you well know, to drafting. So I got lottery funding in the UK and was on the pursuit of going to the Olympics, but just wasn't a strong enough swimmer. Got pretty disillusioned by the sport, to be honest, just because in the UK, that was really the only avenue that you could go down. It wasn't like the US where you had Ironman, you had this, you had that, non-drafting races. And so it wasn't until I moved to California with my husband, who got a job as a professor at San Diego State, that I kind of discovered this whole other kind of world of triathlon. But simultaneously, I was studying my undergraduate in drama, and then I did my graduate studies at San Diego State in theatre and films. So again, always straddling those two worlds. And so I gave up sport while I was doing my master's. Well, gave it up. It's always in you, right? You're always doing something. So I was like, you know, having fun on the mountain bike, or, you know, I was in a bike team or a running group, or, you know, all of that. And then came, you know, acted in some films, and then sort of found my way into writing and production. And then at the same time found XTERRA, and I thought, oh my God, this is like rugby plus triathlon. This is amazing. You know, and because I'm so small, it's all power to weight. So it really played into my strengths, because a lot of the courses are climbing based courses. So, you know, and I think coming back to the sport a second time, psychologically, I was just a lot more mature, and I knew who I was mentally more than physically, in a way, and what I needed to succeed, because I'd grown up in a system that didn't work for me. So I thought therefore I wasn't good, and realized that actually it wasn't me, it was the system. And that's okay. Everyone just needs a different system. So I found my own way. Yeah, kind of rose through the ranks of XTERRA pretty quick, and won my first world title in 2011. And that was just like one of the, I mean, you know what it's like, Mark, you're one too. It's just like your wildest dreams, right? You sort of think, did that just happen? This is everything I've ever wanted, and it's just happened. And I remember my husband and I looking at each other in the middle of the night after it happened, and he just rolled over, and he's like, you're a world champion. Like, what? You know, so
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, I mean, I've obviously been in the sport for a long time, and so one of the hardest things about that is that I've dealt with a lot of illness and injury. I've dealt with chronic Lyme disease and a lot of injuries as a consequence, neuroinflammation stuff, a lot of kind of nerve pain. I call it butt pain, but kind of back pain. So it's been a very up and down, tumultuous time. But along the way, I've found a lot of gratitude and love for the people, the sport, and I think, you know, it's just always going to be a part of my life. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's a great community to be around, and I think sport saved a lot of people. Let's say during COVID, where racing wasn't happening, the world wasn't happening, but people could actually still exercise, even if it was in their own home. And that was such a saving grace to be able to say, okay, at least I'm doing one thing today that's
It's
a positive
positive.
thing for my life. I'm keeping my health going. When
Yep.
you were racing and you were thinking XTERRA and going for that, what was this? Was there a switch point where you went from trying to do this to thinking maybe I can be the best?
Yeah, there definitely was. It was in 2009, and I came second at the World XTERRA Championships behind Julie Dibbins.
Hmm.
And it was like, oh my God, I've gotten on a podium of a world championship. And it was mind blowing. And yeah, that was like a massive shift, massive, massive. Just to like, no, I am a professional, like to really embrace that identity and say, I'm earning money, I've got potential, and I can do this. Because I lacked so much confidence before that point, and that was a real turning point.
Wow, I like that word identity. If you look at the whole of your life, do you feel like you're more an athlete who happened to turn into a great rider, or a great rider who just happened to be good at swimming, biking, and running?
Yeah, definitely an athlete that happened to turn into a good rider. Definitely. I mean, the artist has always been in me because I think as athletes, especially at the top, you are an artist
Mm,
because you have to be creative with how you approach,
mm,
everything in your life when you're at the top of your game, whether that's relationships, whether that's nutrition, whether that's training protocols. Like I've always had to think outside the box about how to achieve things. And be creative. I mean, I come up with the craziest little workouts and routines and all sorts. And I mean, if you get a chance to read our book that Simon and I had published in 2017, we dig into things like athletic identity, but one of the aspects is building an alter ego
mm.
to become the sort of person you want to be. And that's like acting. I used all of my acting training, whether it was having a costume on or having triggers or sensory things to get you into the mind state. So there's a lot of crossover.
Hmm. Yeah, when I competed, I never raced well at home in local events. I lived in San Diego. I never raced well there. I never raced well in Boulder, Colorado, where I trained. And talking about those triggers, but when I went to Europe, or I went to Australia, or I went to Japan, it was this whole trigger of there's something special that's going to take place here. And kind of similar to you, I got into the sport and thought, well, this is fun, but then, when you start to get those close to podium, and all of a sudden you beat somebody that has a name, that light bulb goes on. And I truly, truly believe that last little secret sauce does have to come through that creativity that finds that unique individual blending of things that is good science as far as getting fit, but really takes your body and your mind and everything to that next level.
It's so true. It's so true. And every and that trigger for people is different, right? Everyone has a different trigger. And I think for me, really moving to California was a huge one for me, even although I didn't sort of excel in sport until a few years later. I think it was the mindset because Californians by nature, people might call them false, but there's this unbridled confidence.
Mm.
And so, I would be at a local running event and, folks would rock up and they'd be like, I'm a 5-time this and that. And they'd be all talking about themselves. And then they were shite. I'm like, what? Whereas it's the opposite in Scotland, nobody will say a peep about themselves. And if you do, you're knocked down. And then they're actually bloody good, and you think, where did this person come from? Or they don't look the part. So I think like as I started to sort of gain some confidence, and actually a lot of it started just by the narrative in my head and talking it out loud.
Mm.
When I'd introduce myself, I'd say I'm a professional athlete. I never could have said that in the UK, even when I was,
Mm.
because it's not deemed to be a career, or I didn't necessarily have the results or the finance to back it up. So I was kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm.
Whereas, yeah, and then you say, no, I'm at, national champion, or I've won this many races, or, and not that yes, you're tooting your own horn, you're not being a douche about it, but, it's just, you're kind of upholding sort of you're starting to say, you start to believe what you say, basically.
Yeah, you honor the space that you've earned, really.
Right.
What are some of the there has to be similarities between becoming a world champion as an athlete and writing something that has meaning and is fulfilling and came from a dream and a vision and a passion that you had. What are the similarities between writing and producing and being great as an athlete?
Sure. So there's a couple of things I think when it comes to storytelling in general, the time that you spend as an athlete, you can, as an endurance athlete especially, it's very introspective. So you're digging deep in the meaning of life. There's a lot of existential crises because I think when you're dealing with continual pain or suffering in general, you find meaning through suffering, or one does. So in that regard, my ability to look at the world, myself, what's going on, what's important to me, what I want to talk about or think about, that has been fostered through hours of training out in the landscape, out in nature, out with other people, and through suffering. So this film especially, right? I mean, it is suffering. That's what it's all about. So to tell a story that has this kind of impact is really important to me. And then in terms of the transferring skills, when it comes to being excellent at anything, it's all about mastery of the craft, which means you're pursuing excellence at every step. And to be the best athlete in the world, it's exactly the same, whether that's how you stretch, how you eat, when you go to bed. Every single tiny little thing is layered upon each other. And your passion is about that, all those little things. That's what you get the joy out of. It's not because you think I'm going to win. I mean, of course you think about it, and of course, isn't it great? But if that's all you're thinking about, you're never going to do all those little things that get you the greatness. So it's exactly the same with screenwriting or with film producing, is you're focusing on all the little bits that come together to make it, to make it really wonderful. And yeah, so you're just picking it apart bit by bit, and then you're applying yourself the way that you do in sport. And that's probably why, certainly when it comes to screenwriting, a lot of people aren't successful. It's incredibly challenging and difficult and frustrating, and you're constantly rewriting and getting notes, and this isn't working, and you're having to go in that direction. Again, the same as sport. You hit a race, it didn't work. Okay, let's make an assessment. Why didn't it work? Why didn't it have the performance? What's going on? You start to tweak, you start to change, then you go back to a different, type of training routine. So, similarly with film, and then just the endurance, man, to get a film off the ground is like, whoa. I mean, this took 16 years. Let's hope the next one done. Otherwise, we're screwed.
Wow. So it really sounds like excellence comes out of just being surrendering and being humble enough to go, okay, I need to do these inglorious things over and over and over and over and over. Do you feel like anything great or fulfilling can come without kind of that suffering or that element of, I'm going to do it, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe sometimes, but I think you've had to have gone through some kind of suffering to get to the point at which maybe something magically happens pretty quickly. Or, I mean, it's like, hey, when you're at the top of your game in sport, you get string after string of good good races until you don't, and then you have to reassess. It's kind of cyclical. So it's the same with film. So hopefully we can ride this wave for a while, take advantage of it, and learn from our mistakes quick enough so that we can apply it to the future.
I've got two more questions that, just in the back of my mind, that I've been thinking about since we decided we're going to do this interview. What would you tell young people, especially young girls today, from the experience that you've had? What would be the advice that you would give them as they go forward in their life? Maybe they're young, maybe they have a seed of an idea inside. How do they pursue that? What are some of the things that you would tell them?
Yep. Number one, adversity is good. I think we don't champion it enough. And the reason it's good is because curiously, it actually changes a part of our brain. So we know through neuroscience and neuroplasticity, your brain changes and grows and morphs, and lays down different neural pathways that help us for the future. So when you face adversity, a part of your brain that deals with emotional and physical pain actually grows and gets denser. So it's almost like you're working out a muscle. So anytime you have a crap day, something didn't work out, you have to say, good. That part of my brain has just had a workout. Now I'm going to be able to cope even better the next time it happens. So it's like turning that negative into a positive. So that's number one. Number two is think outside the box about how to get something done. You don't need to go down the same path as everyone else. Think dynamically about different ways. Who is it that I know that maybe knows someone, or does my dad know someone, or, are there other avenues of my life where I could ask advice? Are there mentors I could reach out to that might end up helping me? Don't think so short term, think long term about building those relationships that eventually will come round and help you realize that dream.
Wow. I wish somebody had told me those things when I was younger.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'm not too old, not as old as Mark. So, hopefully I've got more time to utilize them.
Yeah, plenty more. Last question, and this one is completely not serious. Okay, so you're going to the Oscars March 12th. You're going to be walking down that red carpet. You're going to be standing there. And one of the most important things for everybody is, what the heck are they going to wear?
I know it. So check this out. I have a designer reach out to me and say, I want to design your gown for the BAFTAs and the Oscars. So they're coming to my hotel tomorrow. They're taking all my measurements and they're actually designing me a custom gown.
Wow.
Go figure out. Can I wear sneakers with that?
That would be the best. That would be the ultimate blending of all your worlds, your life into one. You got your favorite running shoes on, and you have your designer gown that was made especially for you. What an amazing experience! What an amazing journey, Lesley Paterson. Thank you so much for taking time to chat today.
It's a pleasure, Mark. Thanks so much.
All right, and everybody, March 12th. Oscars, Lesley Paterson, Best Adapted Screenplay, executive producer, All Quiet on the Western Front, 9 nominations, right?
That's right.
And if you haven't seen the movie, take the time. It's on Netflix, very easy. You can watch it in bits and pieces. You can chew off the entire elephant all in one bite if you like. A movie that is amazing, impactful, emotional, raises a lot of questions about what we're doing here. Mondays with Mark Allen. Thank you, everybody.